Although the Maccabean revolt ended in 160 BCE, Judea's fight for independence was far from over. To recap, in 160 BCE, Judea was both a vassal of the Seleucid Empire and a military ally of the Roman Republic, which is kind of an untenable paradox, and ensured that Judea would become more powerful and influential within Seleucid politics than if it had simply been given independence. Furthermore, Judea and the Seleucid king remained in an active dispute. Although Demetrius the Savior had recognized Jonathan Aphis as the legitimate ruler of Judea in 157, he had refrained from recognizing Jonathan as the legitimate high priest, instead keeping the rival Oniad priest in his back pocket in case Jonathan stepped out of line. 4 years later, there was another rebellion, but not a Jewish one. In 153, a Seleucid general named Alexander Ballas, claiming to be the bastard son of the late Antiochus Epiphanes, raised his army against King Demetrius. Demetrius was forced to recall his troops from Judea and offered Jonathan greater Jewish autonomy in exchange for military assistance. Alexander Ballas did one better, offering all of that, plus recognition of Jonathan as high priest. Alexander Ballas was basically offering to make Jonathan powerful enough to break from Seleucid influence entirely. Jonathan agreed to the alliance, Alexander Ballas won the civil war, and as an added bonus, he showed his thanks by letting Judea annex this territory. Strangely enough, this political breakthrough caused a minor religious schism in Jerusalem. I've already spoken before about how the Jewish high priesthood lacked any sort of primogeniture, resulting in multiple rival bloodlines of which Jonathan's Hasmoneans were only one. Well, upon Jonathan's recognition, yet another branch, the Essenes, withdrew from mainstream Jewish society entirely, in what seems to have begun as an act of political protest, but quickly evolved into something much weirder. Guided by a mysterious patriarch known only as the Teacher of Righteousness, the Essenes established their own small hermitages, forsaking the use of coin money and embracing pacifism and asceticism to a degree unheard of even in the stranger corners of the faith. For example, the Essenes didn't believe in using the bathroom on Shabbat, and their extremely deprived lifestyle all but guaranteed that they would die prematurely of preventable disease. They were also all men, but their movement survived for at least a century, possibly two. They had their own neighborhood within the walls of Jerusalem, and while they didn't make much of an impact in their own time, most historians believe now that they were the authors of the famous Dead Sea Scrolls. In 145, Alexander Ballas was overthrown, and another civil war broke out among the Seleucids, this time between the supporters of Ballas's 3-year-old son, Antiochus Dionysius, Demetrius the Savior's son, Demetrius Nicator, and one of Ballas's generals, Diodotus Tryphon. The exact details of this conflict are complicated and not really important, but Jonathan responded by breaking away from Seleucid vassalship and declaring his support for Tryphon, only to be murdered by Tryphon in what was supposed to be a friendly parley. Ultimately, Demetrius Nicator won the war, and despite his policy of persecuting Jews within his own domain, he granted more autonomy to Judea, including control over the port city of Jaffa. Left to its own devices, Judea also secured a military alliance with Sparta, which is honestly kind of hilarious. Sparta had been a complete joke for 2 centuries at this point. It wasn't even an independent city-state, so declaring an alliance with Judea was more for them than for us. With Jonathan dead, the last surviving Maccabee, Simon Tassi, took his place as high priest and crowned himself Prince of Judea, thus beginning the Hasmonean dynasty. And it's from this that we get the last new book of the Hebrew Bible, Daniel, the story of a Jewish prophet abducted into the service of the Babylonian emperor Nebuchadnezzar, only to predict his downfall. Daniel was basically an allegorical polemic to legitimize the Hasmoneans as the heads of state. See, there were still claimants to the throne from the Davidic line, and the Hasmoneans were priests, which the Torah implicitly forbids from serving as secular rulers, which is why Simon settled for the title of prince. It would be another generation before the kingdom of Judea would live up to its name. Special thanks to my patrons, including Gaonite level patron Vicky Nelson. If you like this video, you can also donate via Patreon, linked below. You can also check out my book, An Armada of Cats Travels in Israel. Otherwise, you can always like, share, and subscribe. I will see you next time.